listening to Bold Calling, a podcast presented by Orum, where every episode we're bringing on the biggest and brightest minds in the tech and sales industries for a discussion about their biggest challenges and the unique ways they're working to solve them. I'm your host, Adam Sokol, and today I'm joined by Michael Maximoff, founder of Belkins and host of the extremely popular Belkins podcast. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Adam, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I mentioned I could not be more excited to have you on, and I genuinely mean that, because what we're going to be talking today is, at time of recording, literally 15 minutes ago, I launched Orum's 2024 State of Sales Development Report. And I know that sales development is something you hold near and dear to your heart as well. And so we're going to dive into some of the questions that arose and some of the pieces of data that we had. And so the first thing I want to talk about, what we found in building out this report and the data that we got from surveying 1,000 sales leaders was that basically SDRs are responsible for building less pipeline for an organization than a year ago, but they appear to be more essential than ever. The role is expanding beyond just outbound. And, you know, your company is renowned for generating pipeline for other organizations. I want to know, has the role shifted for your reps, especially with the rise of like automation and AI?
I've seen the same. I've seen that BDR role has expanded into more a GTM specialist, growth specialist, anyone that could actually develop a good strategy. As we all know, with AI being so popular these days, accessing tools and accessing outbound is affordable. Like, everyone can do that, right? And because of that, we've seen increase in, email spam, email outreach, calling, you name it, right? So now what my team has been struggling with, or where we are and where we are going, is how can we expand the SDR BDR role to be able to not just execute the outreach campaign, but also develop strategy behind it, develop different channels, put it into perspective, like run this omnichannel customer experience. I think this is where the industry is going. Now, something that also changed a lot was the fact that most of the companies have been struggling, not just building the pipeline, but also getting that pipeline converted into a closed won deals, right? And so the reason is that there was no alignment between sales and marketing, or there was a lot of misalignment, but also there was a different incentiveness, right? So very often we've seen in bigger companies, BDRs or SDRs being part of the marketing team, not the sales team, right? And they're working on generating the pipeline. Now, they generated the pipeline. What next? Can sales team convert that pipeline? No, they cannot, right? So then there is this, okay, we cannot convert, we cannot meet our revenue targets. What can we do, right? So what started happening is that the sales executive role has also been expanded into full cycle sales back. So now the sales executives start generating their own pipeline, right? And using community, referral, word of mouth, warm outbound, as they call it, their social selling, and so on and so forth. So we've seen that happening. So if a sales exec can build their own pipeline, then what the hell we need BDRs for, right? And that's where the question is like, okay, what BDRs can do? And now, having a junior BDR or someone that's starting out and just setting up them with tools and, hey, here's the ICP, here's some tools, do it. It's not going to happen, right? So it's more sophisticated. So now you think about the BDR as that GTM growth specialist that can leverage multiple tools, multiple strategies, multiple channels, and build the pipeline aligned with sales and marketing team to be able to, to have not just pipeline build, but also have that pipeline created, pipeline converted into closed deal after that. So we've seen business development in its pure natural form as it should be. So
yeah, I want to expand on that a little bit. I didn't want to interrupt you, but there was about 50 questions I wanted to ask as a follow-up. You mentioned, a lot of BDRs and SDRs being under marketing. We actually, in this report, we found out the number is about 34%. So it's about a third of all SDRs are now under marketing. And you're right about the either miscommunication or poor relationship handling between marketing and sales. In fact, our events team was just at HubSpot's Inbound, and we did this huge like outbound at inbound event where there was basically what we called it a dumpster fire, because it was the like the event itself was about marketing and sales and their collaboration and basically working better together. And you're right, it's an interesting and it's a nuanced situation. I like to think of BDRs almost as like a first marketing touch point a lot of times, depending on how they're reaching out to people. But for your reps who, as you mentioned, are like, they're responsible for building pipeline for other organizations. And then to your point, a lot of people are still struggling with taking that pipeline and converting it. Like, are you shifting the way that you, like the KPIs that you're holding yourself accountable for organizations? I guess, like, what is shifting for you in your organization's role?
So, all right, let me put this like this. So we started with email as our main channel. It was scalable. It was effective. We were one of the best in the world that were doing outreach by email. And the delivery was simple. We've built messaging. We've built the database with leads. We've set up mailboxes on clients' behalf. We've got everything that to our SDR team. Then SDR reached out to the prospects on clients' behalf, worked on responses, converted, booked meetings. That's it, right? This strategy starts shifting. So email as a single channel is not enough. You need calling. You need LinkedIn. You need, PR. You need advertising. You need like a true omnichannel to be able to not just use tactics to reach out, convert, and make the interest, but actually how you can identify prospects that have buying intent, how you can build a relationship with them, how you can build an actual effective customer journey, right? So where the shift is happening with us is we've started employing different channels, and we've started collaborating closely with clients' marketing teams to be able to create this outbound and inbound motion and develop this more effective customer journey. So now, when we look at the journey, right, it might consist from awareness, attention building, then activation, conversion, and retention, right? And what everyone was looking with the SDR, BDR function is like how you can convert, how you can get the list of leads and how you can convert. But they were missing this awareness and activation motion, which was like, have we built awareness that that clients know about the company or the product or the problem? And then have we been able to show them that we are the best solution to solve the problem, right? That have we activated them? And only then the conversion. So what we've started seeing is we start working with customer with marketing strategy. We start building our marketing strategy team and closely working with their teams to be able to develop those customer journeys and then build into different stages, seeing where the BDR function that we have right now is, what stage of that customer journey is at, and then what stages customer is missing, how we can help customer to develop those stages so that everything is working effectively. And it means that, again, working with customer marketing team more closely, helping them to develop other marketing initiatives, except from the outbound, utilizing multiple outbound channels. So we are talking email, LinkedIn, social selling, calling. We call it intent calling, when you can actually see what customers are doing with your brand and the web traffic, how they're engaging with your brand, and then pushing through the calling sequence and so on and so forth, as well as SMS and webinars, events, face-to-face meetings, you name it, right? But trying to create this holistic experience, end-to-end customer journey. And in this way, we can be accountable for some results, but also customer shares some accountability, because one of the things, and maybe for listeners would be interesting, one of the things why some companies fail collaborating with appointment setting agencies or so-called outsourced SDR agencies is that they shift the focus and they shift the responsibility only on the service provider. Like Belkins is responsible for the results rather than like it's a collaboration effort and we are sharing the effort and we wanted to push it, right? So now we're focusing more on that collaboration aspect, and we've seen that if we're taking responsibility from the end to end, we're sharing this with customer, and then we're collaborating deeply with their team. Things are happening on a much more effective and better level, right? So hope this answers your question.
Yeah, it does. That's really interesting. And I want to ask you, you mentioned all the different channels that you're using, and we in this report we found Omnichannel, like you said, is the way. It's the best. It's the best way to kind of warm leads up and inform them and start to build that relationship. And We have found for the second year in a row that the phone is the number one channel for building pipeline. Like 85% of the sales leaders believe it's an effective tool, and 70% of the people we surveyed said more than half of their pipeline is coming from the phone. What that really means is through all of the different touch points, the touch point that they use to like the final touch point when they book a meeting is by getting on the phone and having that conversation. Yeah. So
I just wanted to clarify something here. It's a very good point. Exactly. Like phones are converting more and more and more. But what people are missing is that they think that phone should be the first touch point in the sequence that would convert, rather than it might be the second, third, or fifth, right? So if you're trying to do just a mass cold calling, right, without prior building any relationship with this customer, you won't see as much higher conversion as if it's a third touch point when you already build some awareness and activation with advertising, with email, with social media, and then you're doing the calling. Obviously, your conversions will be 3 times, 5 times, 10 times higher.
Yeah, and I do want to, so that's kind of what I was alluding to, and I want to ask you to kind of dig in a little bit deeper, is to your exact point. Like we work, obviously Orum is a dialing platform, but we work with our customers to that exact point. We say like, you need to have context when you call. You need to provide them, like there has to be a reason for your phone call. It can't just be, hey, this is Adam calling from Orum. Hey, Michael, how's it going? You're going to be like, what do you want? So for your reps who are approaching this the right way with Omnichannel, and it might be different for every type of sequence, but like when are you, like what is the context behind the phone calls that you guys are making, and how much kind of pre-call research does your team have when they start doing so?
Yeah, this is a great question. So the way we deploy our strategy is we first build the list. So we wanted to double down our efforts on buyer persona research, ICP research, TAM analysis, as well as building a list with, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 accounts that fits all those criteria. And then we know that at this or some point in time, we need to convert 100% of them as their dream clients, right? So we start building those relationships. Now we look at this list and we say, okay, who from the client ends, what clients have done with this list in the past? Have they talked to them? What channels did they use? Did they done anything with them? If this is a fresh list, let's imagine this is a fresh list. This is the first time we see this. It's a new ICP, right? Then we say, okay, betting on their buyers, like what channels we should utilize first to build that first awareness stage, right? Like usually we might do LinkedIn ads, we might do Google search ads, we might run some PR or some partnership activity, or look for where we can activate those, right? Build the awareness. Then the way we do it is we've run an email channel, and then depending on the email channel, we might include different links for the case studies or lead magnets or anything that we know would create value for the customer, and that as well as we can discover any type of intent, right? So if we see any type of engagements, people start engaging with our brand on social, following the page, liking content, if they start opening our emails multiple times, if they clicked on links with like case studies or registered somewhere or went to the webinar. So any action and then if you do that at scale with the right audience, then you start kind of seeing that this list of leads start being nurtured in a way, right? So then we've seen these activities, and then we hop on the call and we start calling the list, because as you pointed out yourself, we have an intent to get a call, right? And then oh yeah, I saw you guys, I've read an email from you guys, I've seen that. So they understand where you're coming from and what you want to do with them, right? And then you have the list, and then you kind of build a sequence where you can combine email, calling, LinkedIn, SMS messages, as well as some other, advertising and other in a certain sequence depending on the buyers. Some sequences can be 20 touches and may take 3 months. Some sequences can be shorter, 2 months. But the point is that then when you have a clarity which channel are you're using in sequence, then you can see where conversion is up at, and then you can see like, do you need to change the sequence? Do you need to get more actions? Which channel works better? Where we're losing it, so on and so forth. And for the listeners, it's some people mistake omnichannel with multi-channel marketing, which is a totally different game. So I wanted to explain this to people. So with a multi-channel, you are utilizing multiple channels to communicate your value proposition with prospects, but those channels are not integrated with each other. They just work in simultaneously. So there might be different messaging from different platform, different journey. Customer might engage with your messaging from multiple platforms at the same time. With Omnichannel, it's a sequence integrated step-by-step process where you always are using the previous history of engagement to build another second engagement. So this made the journey is more seamless, and customers are not pissed off that like, oh, I've been seeing ads from those guys everywhere, like I hate them. But it's more like the next touch makes sense only if there's some kind of engagement from the previous touch, which is, again, more effective and more cost-effective solution. So
I love that. Thank you. That's such a good point, because you're absolutely right. Like the whole like multi-channel idea of, like you said, like, oh my God, I keep seeing their ads, and 3 different people have sent me DMs on LinkedIn. Like, these people will not leave me alone. That's not a healthy way. That you're just going to enrage people. You mentioned the list building and then all of these different aspects that your team is doing from like an omni-channel approach. I'm curious. I've had conversations with other founders who are building organizations that are doing outbound for other people, and like they've had very specific processes for their reps, for like they're just dialing, and they had ops people building lists. I'm curious for you, like, what is your team's approach for that research and the different areas of outreach? Or do you have reps that are kind of taking one client and doing everything with them, or is it kind of they've got a bunch of different accounts and there you have reps responsible for just dialing, for example?
So we've seen that specialization still works fine. So if you have a rep and you say, okay, you're going to be pulling your own leads, you're going to be verifying them, you will be calling the list, you would be creating the messaging, you would be doing all of those things, then if your rep is not effective, that you kind of don't know what is that, when that rep or where the rep drops the ball. So it's like, is that they're spending too much time on the lead research and they're not hitting the phone, or they're hitting the phone and they're doing proper research, right? So when you have someone like that internally, well, you can figure this out. But when you're outsourcing or have a team working with you, then it's a bad idea. So what we've done is we've dedicated a role called lead research specialist, and their job is to work with the market, with the research, with sources, and build the list. And they're responsible for orchestrating multiple tools, multiple sources, and making sure that the lead list that the SDR gets is top notch, is verified, and they're just focusing on honing that profession. And then the SDRs, they're more than work with the client and the lead researcher to pull those leads and then work with them and then provide the feedback, as well as work on the messaging and the outreach and so on and so forth. So they kind of work in the tandem, and it's much more effective. So in this way, SDR can focus on engaging and outreach, and then the lead research specialist can focus on lead generation and list building. And to be honest, Adam, one of the things that I still couldn't solve is we tried multiple tools for lead sourcing, like all the tools imaginable, we've done them. And we've seen that we are not able to ensure the highest quality of leads as well as conversion for the SDRs if we're using any particular source. We need to combine all those sources. So it means that I need to have someone working with those sources. So if I'm using Apollo or ZoomInfo or Lucia or you name it, I just cannot no one can provide that, right? And getting all of the providers is very expensive. So what we realized is that we might have people that are using free paid sources, some other LinkedIn navigators, LinkedIn, our own internal database, to be able to pull the right list, verify each and every contact, and provide with the personalization points that they need to be able to, create a better personalization as customization for the.
Well, and then to that point, I actually had a conversation with our founder and CEO, Jason Dorfman, like actually earlier this week, about this exact thing. Is he is a big believer in obviously having incredibly like well researched and thought out lists and all these different things, but he also believes in having the rep. He's like, you can get the proper data from like what their contact information is, and you can get some intent data, but ultimately, he's like, I do want my BDRs and SDRs calling, and like, it's okay if they get the wrong person, because they can still get more information about that organization, about what their needs are, so that when, and he's like, I might call into an enterprise organization and talk to 15 people who are the quote unquote wrong person, but get more information with each one of those calls. By the time I finally speak to the right person, the decision maker, I have so much context that I was able to create myself in addition to the intent. So to your point, I do think like you said, you can pay through the nose for all of these different, lead scoring and but ultimately you still do need to, like, that's why SDRs and BDRs are still so important, because they do need to do that legwork.
Something also worth mentioning here, and to your point about contacting multiple people, is buying committees are as effective as ever. So it's like people are making decisions as the team, right? And when you're working with an account, you need to identify who this buying committee is, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, and you need to start building relationships with all of them, not just one contact, but a lot of them. And it means that hitting the phone and calling all of them, and and then again, showing that you've done your research, calling names, calling positions, seeing intent, referring to it, right? Like there's so much work you can do within one account right now to get actual real penetration and actual real engagement with them. Then SDRs and BDRs are the future. But right now than in ever, what's happening with the role is they're shifting to just setting up tools and running automated outreach, like mass outreach, to being and deploying a more sophisticated, more smart strategies where BDR, when BDR can actually build a strategy and execute a strategy from top to bottom, using multiple channels. One other thing is that when you ask me about what else works for us is the fact that we're trying to hire people from a certain industry. So we've seen that right now, one size fits all doesn't work really well. So using a unique experience from fintech or manufacturing or construction, and using the same lingo, because we've got to the point where like people like it's funny, like we've done our own we've done some data analysis where we've seen that in non-digital industries like manufacturing, environmental, constructions, our conversions drop down drastically. And we start to obviously, doing some research like why it's happening and some questionnaires. And we find out that people just don't understand what the hell the appointment setting is, or what the hell the outbound sales is, right? So it's like, they're like, like outbound, inbound, that's what HubSpot created, like this phrase, right? And then you're like, we don't know who the HubSpot is, right? So you're like, oh, hold on. So we need to go back to the lingo, right? So, and very often we don't know a lot of those things within a customer industry. So by hiring reps and focusing on, we call this pods, like we have the sales pods, SDR pods, like people that are focusing and honing their skill within a certain industry and are doing very good with that. We've seen that those people can create really impactful campaigns for clients.
I do actually, this gets to something I was going to touch on in just a little bit, but I want to ask you now. So as a founder of a company who, you're constantly adding new reps, new sales professionals to your team, I'm always fascinated by how to optimize onboarding. Like, how do you ensure that these people who are going to come on, whether they're industry specific or they're going to have more of a broad approach, how does your team optimize the onboarding process so that it's not like, okay, we're bringing in a new BDR and they're going to be ready in 6 months? Like, I imagine you have to really maximize the value. What does that ramp look like?
Yeah. So for us, it starts with this structure. So, the way it works right now, SDR team is built in like a squad. So we have like 3-4 SDRs with one team lead, and then we have multiple team leads, and we have the head of department, right? So when a new SDR comes on board, they start as junior. Whatever you've done previously, you always start as junior, right? Because junior for us is not the skill level, it's the understanding level of all the processes, all the nuances, intricacies of this, so on and so forth. So you get in a small team. Then we've built this onboarding where, the first 2 weeks, you have like a day by day, what you need to do, who you need to talk to, what you need to learn. So it's not overwhelming, but it's a very like introductory step-by-step process. So you learn only the things that you need to learn during the time so that it's get into your brain and you're not rushing things up, right? Then in a few weeks, you start working with like as a right hand with some with some SDRs on the client work, and then So the point is that we need to see that a junior SDR can ramp up and work independently within the first 3 months, but they're getting the feedback every month. So in a way, we've seen that within 3 months, that SDR can be completely independent, doing the work and growing from there. And then we have internal training system for that. We have some courses that we recorded, but I am a huge believer of this. Go and do this thing rather than just learn about this, even if you make some mistakes. So the thing here is how I can build the balance between getting enough work so they feel the pressure of learning and feel the pressure of like, okay, we need to get this done, and not burn them out too much so that they're like, oh, it's too crazy for me, right? So we're trying to keep that push as much as we can so that people are on their feet all the time and they know that it's not an easy job, but it's a very rewarding job, but obviously not an easy one. So
yeah, one of the data points that we saw in this survey that was completely different from 2023 is that in 2023, over half of all SDRs were basically leaving the role within the last 6 months. It was like a 55% turnover. This year, what we're seeing is not only are SDRs staying in the role longer, but 80% of the time when an SDR, quote unquote, leaves their role, it's to do something else within that organization. So either they're getting promoted to account executive or team lead, or they're going to customer success or something. Is that something, like, are you guys seeing new SDRs? Are you kind of treating it as like a talent feeder into the rest of your organization as well?
So for me, SDR, for my company, SDR is a profession. So we've have SDRs that have been with us for 3, 4, 5 years, because for me, it's my product. So it's like, if my SDR is going to be turning over, then it's like, what the point, right? So the way we do it, like, you have a team lead, you have senior SDRs, you have different training professionals, so on and so forth. You have some dedicated SDRs. Now, with my industry, it's easier because SDR can work with different clients and they can change industry, change seats. So it's always fun. You always learn a new product, you try new channels, so on and so forth. So that's why they stay longer. Now, we've recently started expanding internationally, hiring more reps in the US and the UK. And what we've learned from them was the fact that a lot of people right now, they wanted to stay at the SDR job. They like it. They like the challenge. They like, multiple channels, multiple roles. They like to be able to execute marketing and not being just sales, right? So they treat that as marketing, business development, relationship building. But what they've seen, they always say, Michael, if we're able to orchestrate multiple channels, contribute to messaging creation, contributing to the strategy, build the relationship, actually engage with prospects in a more thoughtful manner, then we love that. Just don't put us on the phone and that's it. Like, don't do this. Just don't give us the list and we will, calling out that list every day until the end of our days. We're going to die. But if you help us and give us the opportunity to create a more end-to-end complex multi-channel with, campaign, yeah, we love that. Let's do that, right? Because they see they see that it's super fun and super challenging, and there's so many things happening. Each channel have their own thing going on, and they are able to combine that and so on and so forth.
So this gets kind of to the last question I want to ask you. We've sort of been talking about it a little bit, and I think we're on the same page here, but I'm curious, we wrap up this report by basically saying, like, the rise of AI and automation, like a year ago, everyone was like, it's sales jobs are done. They're out. Goodbye. And what we've actually seen is, like, not only have the sales jobs not gone away, but the sellers from frontline entry and quote unquote entry level BDRs, SDRs, all the way through, full cycle AEs, like, they're actually just more impactful now and they're much more talented. So I'm curious, what do you see the BDR role evolving into in the next 12 to 18 months? And do we think it'll even be recognizable from what it is right now?
I don't have so my opinion and my position is very controversial. So most of guys in my industry, they're like pro AI, like, yeah, let's do that. Let's automate everything. And I am against AI in a way. I'm very cautious about the AI in generally. So the way I see it is, I've seen this study a few days ago. someone analyzed the number of daily cold emails that they're getting back 2018, 19, 20, and now. And in 2021, on average, a C-level executive can get, let's say in a week, between 200 to 300 cold pitches, right? Now this number is 600. So within 1 year, and then the number before that was growing like 5%, 10% year to year. So you've seen 200, 220, 30, 40. And in the last year, from 300, we see the twice growth, like 600, which is insane. The reason is that we've seen so many people utilizing scraping, sourcing, AI, calling, like it's like everyone is just pushing it, right? So what I think there will be two types of companies and brands. There will be companies that want it to be effective, and they would be using AI as a tool to help the reps to be effective in a manner, but not overutilizing it so that they're not going to be run by AI, but rather than, it's going to be smart targeting, personalized omnichannel campaign. And we will see brands that would want to work with mass market, and they will be doing a ton of things. And we will see the discrepancy in customer experience, as well as like we've seen right now with ads. Like, have you seen like the advertising we see on social, like Instagram or Facebook or whatever, we have advertising blindness, and we only engage with some ads that are cool, that are very nicely done. And those that are poorly done, shitty done, we're just reporting or even not engaging with them. We've seen that, we will see the same. So my position is that the more companies will be utilizing AI as their go-to platform or channel, whatever, so they will be completely independent, self-managed, they will get to the point where they would have very poor conversions, they will have, very low ROI, and they will try to do a lot of mass, a lot of scale, but not putting a lot of thought into the process. And there will be some other companies that are more sophisticated. Obviously, it's going to cost them more, but the overall outcome of it will be higher. And then just to close up on this, with AI and with obviously with the crisis that we've been in tech for the last couple of years, or not crisis, I don't know what to believe anymore. But the point was that there's a lot of short-term planning. So people are like, okay, I'm going to do this campaign right now. I'm going to generate some leads. I'm going to do AI. And what I think is we need to go back to that 3-5 year planning and say, look, okay, how my brand going to look like in 5 years? What kind of relationships I can build? What will those relationships be genuine or not? And if yes, then will my clients that would pay me 6, 7, 8 figures want to engage with AI and sort of like and build a relationship with AI? They won't. They want people and personalities and characters behind them. So our job is to build teams and keep them interested, keep them motivated, and retain them. So because the people are the future of your organization, right? The reps that works with you, so you don't need to replace the reps. You need to build reps in a way and work with them and manage them in a way that they want to stay with your organization, that they believe in the product and they want to work with you for 5-6 years and they don't want to leave, instead of just replacing them with AI, which is, again, don't go anywhere.
I love it. Michael, I mentioned, you're the founder of Belkins, but, as we wrap up here, where is the best way for people to find more information about your company, about you, about your podcast? What's the best way for people to learn more?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can just Michael Maximoff LinkedIn and you can reach out, connect. I always post my podcast on YouTube. It's Belkins Podcast. I do my own newsletter. And just generally, you can reach out to me at michael@belkins.io. It's pretty simple. I check my email every day. So in case anyone has any questions,
Perfect. That's amazing. I will put all of those in the show notes so that everyone can get easy access to them. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Adam, I have so much fun. Thanks for thoughtful questions. Really appreciate them, man.